to know him somewhat better. I knew him from afar, but now I know him better. So, hello and welcome, Pastor Eddie. How are you today? You see right where you touch that mic. There you go. How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor and a pleasure beyond words to be in this interview this afternoon on this beautiful Saturday.
Was a guest of his radio talk show. And Eddie, you know, I have already said thank you, but let me say thank you once again. Because what the opportunity did for me, the experience, was to put me on the other side of what I've been requesting of guests. So I was able to hear my mindset too. You know, you could be thinking a thing, but you don't hear it being played in your ear. Well, I appreciate it. And that's another thing. Your crew is subpar to none. They were excellent. So it takes a village and everything. So your crew is beautiful too. So here's my first question off the bat. How old is your radio show? How long have you been around?
Well, my radio show is about 10 years old, and we've been around actually longer than that, but officially it's about 10 years old.
To ask you, could I interview you? It was based on this. You know, through our growing up, the known leaders of the civil rights struggle, most of the time we have just read about them, right? But I thought to myself, here's an opportunity for me to speak to someone that's in the fight, and I can speak to them in real time, right? Later down the road, there may be all kind of articles and books written about you, but for me to get the opportunity
for, you know, our family.
Right.
So I had to go into the black restroom, and that was racism at its best, and that's when I knew that I would remember never to forget that it was black bathrooms and white bathrooms. It was a front door for the whites and back door for the blacks, and to me, that was unacceptable, but it was something that we had to deal with in that time.
Yeah, then and even now, okay? So I'm glad you went to the black bathroom, or I could not interview you today.
You're so right.
Eddie, let me ask you this. You as a pastor, you as a person who is interested in the fight of civil rights, how did you come to invest your professional life to this work? You know, what drew you to it?
Well, you know, when Dr. Martin Luther King, when they murdered Medgar Evers and Dr. King and Malcolm X, it just made me more and more feel like someone has to pick up the baton and someone has to carry that, and someone has to do something about it. And I felt like it should be me. My dad, who attended a lot of the city council meetings in Los Angeles, had bought a brand new home on Arlington before Arlington had streetlights. So my dad fought for streetlights to be put on Arlington Avenue. The lights that are there to this very day was because my father stood up and fought for those lights to be there. And being there with him and watching him do what he did, it encouraged me and motivated me. And I said, I'd like to do that. And he said something to me that I say to this day. He said, the only limit in life is the one you put on yourself, so let there be no limits. And I have been doing it ever since for over 30 years.
You know, I love that example that you were led to get into this work based on your father. That's a beautiful testimony, you know, because we know in the community there are so many black men who didn't even know their father, right? So for you to have your father and he set the example for you, that's a beautiful thing. Defense lawyer, I think my specialty would have been the closer. So with that in mind, who are you in your work? What's your specialty? Are you the data collector or the interpreter of the data? Are you the mouthpiece or the bridge builder? Whichever one you tell us you are your specialty, then explain to us how that looks on you, how you function in that capacity.
Well, I'd be really transparent with that question. I am the mouthpiece. I am the data collector. I am the bridge builder, and they all work together. It's all a sequence that is all together because you have to collect the data from the individuals that you're working for or with, and then you have to be a mouthpiece to speak out against the injustice, and then you have to build the bridges by bringing the people together. If I may, I one of my fondest memories was working on the wrongful death of Michael Joseph Jackson for the Jackson family. For Mr. Jackson, he came on my radio show, and once he heard me, he said at the end of the show, he said he left his number and told me to call him right away. And I called him, and he said, "I want you to work with me on the wrongful death of my son." For Mr. Michael Joseph Jackson, and I thank God because again I was the bridge builder because I built the bridge between myself and the Jacksons, and then we had to be the data collector because I had to collect all the data, which took me all the way to Washington D.C. to the Supreme Court, and then I had to be the mouthpiece, which I spoke whenever we came out of the courtroom. It'd be thousands of microphones, and I would look at Mrs. Catherine Jackson, the ways that I showed that I was a bridge builder, the collector, the mouthpiece, and etc.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely. And yeah, that case was world known. So, yes, again, the little time I've met you, I find you to be excellent in your craft. So, that's a perfect example that people of notoriety would have pursued you and asked you to work in their behalf. Perfect example that people of notoriety would have pursued you and asked you to work in their behalf. So that's excellent.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Pastor Eddie, let me ask you, how are we doing in the fight? In your opinion, are we making strides?
I am so happy that you asked me that question. And let me start off by saying we've come a long way in the civil rights fight. I am so happy that you asked me that question. And let me start off by saying we've come a long way in the civil rights fight, but we still have a very, very long way to go. We've made achievements in areas where we can live where we want to live. We can work where we want to work. We can own property where we want to own property. But for some reason, the word racism continues to raise its terrible, nasty head. People in America have to renew our right to vote. So we're doing a good job, but the work never ends. When you see associates like my associate Ben Crump and other associates in the civil rights arena, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and people that I've worked with over the years, that goes to show you that the fight is still alive and very, very well.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned Ben Crump because, for example, me being a CNN watcher, do you think the younger leaders in this fight, they understand it fully to the degree of your age group, or do you think they got another spin to this whole thing called racism?
Well, I got to be honest with you, I just want to say this. As I was down working on the case for Ahmaud Arbery, I was there with the Ahmaud Arbery family. It's about marching with signs anymore. They are about actually getting down and rolling their sleeves all the way up and getting down with the real nitty gritty, which is extremely, extremely important and very, very motivating. When you look back to we shall overcome compared to we have overcome and we're going to continue to overcome, there's quite a difference between those two. And we shall overcome is beautiful, don't get me wrong, for its time it's beautiful, but we live in several occasions to make sure that our voices are heard. So yes, this young generation is assertive, aggressive, and productive. and I'm very appreciative to that.
Oh, well, I love it. And I got excited as you say it because, okay, the fight continues and we need that young blood in there that understands it all, but the Joshua generation, right?
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. For me, I, you know,